Hello everyone, Mrs. Rouse again. So we're going to do something really different today. I want you to not worry about it being challenging and think about it as something that's just kind of fun and new, and go about it this way. For what we're doing in class today, you're going to need a few things. First of all, I told you last time you needed an object that was all white. So I have this white cup and saucer that I'll be drawing in my drawing. If you do not have this, you will need this right away. Stop the video and go get something, probably from your kitchen. I'd rather it was not just as simple as this, but if that's all you can find, definitely please do not give me a plate. No, that's not enough. So some of this, something that's maybe even a pitcher that has a little bit more form to it would be nice. A cup and saucer would be nice. Somewhere else in your house, if it is something like a statue or something, it needs to be pretty simple. It will be easier to work with if it has kind of a shiny texture like this, because we are going to do shading, and you'll be able to see more. But go get something that's all white. It's not too difficult. I'm actually giving you permission to get something simple today and bring it back. I have a piece of white paper back here, so it's going to sit on a piece of white paper just off the camera over here. Okay, so you're going to go get that and bring it back if you don't have that already. Other things I'd like you to have today, find your white colored pencil, find your regular eraser, and your kneaded eraser. If you do not have a white colored pencil, then go ahead and use a regular pencil for this. I just think the white colored pencil is more kind of harmonious with the drawing, where the regular pencil, it might show up when you're done. The white colored pencil won't. So you don't have this, get this. I'm getting rid of the pencil. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to need your piece of charcoal paper. It's 9 by 12. It's in the original packet of papers I gave you for the semester. So that big white folder, here's this little small piece of paper. If you accidentally use this for your charcoal squares assignment, then go ahead and use whatever gray piece of construction paper you have left. So do that. If you don't have this charcoal paper, just use a gray or even a neutral piece of construction paper. Just don't use white, because we want to draw lighter and darker in the case of this kind of drawing experience. So go get that if you don't have that. Also, you need, I gave you a baggie in your portfolio. You haven't used it yet. That has charcoals that are in different values. So one baggie had just different types of charcoals. These are technically pastels. They feel a lot like charcoal. So there's a white, and then a series of grays, and then one that's all the way black. So these are in a separate baggie than your other charcoal supplies. I would get a couple Kleenex. You can see how dirty this stuff is. It gets your fingers dirty right away. And then go ahead and put them on the Kleenex, and I would probably arrange them in order of values, so when you go to grab them, they're kind of ready to go for what you're going to need. So go get any of these supplies that you don't have, including whatever you're going to draw, and come back and keep watching the video. So I'm going to move my charcoal out of the way. The first thing we're going to do is draw our still life. Now, because of the nature of mine, it's kind of like a lump, so I like it better horizontal. It really could be vertical. Whatever you happen to draw, horizontal, vertical, doesn't matter. You'll notice I also have a piece of newsprint here. Any paper, or maybe some paper towels to put under your paper when we use the pastels, it's kind of messy, so you want something like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do first is I'm going to draw it. Probably what I would do is make a map of about where things are. You can use a regular pencil, about what shape is it, about where does it go. So this is how I would start my drawing. Now my drawing took about 5 minutes. I went ahead and drew this before the video because I didn't want you to have, you've seen me draw before. But what I use is I usually do a little bit of mapping, plan it out. I wrote down it took me 5 minutes to draw that, so I would imagine since I draw fast, it would take you 5 to 10 minutes to draw just a basic outline of what you've done. It does not have to be perfect. And I'm gonna go ahead and doesn't want to erase. Nice, Mrs. Ross. Anyway, my drawing will always have times written on the corner. Okay, so once you get it to this point, so you know, stop the video again until you get here. We're going to start adding our lights and darks with the pastels. I wanted to show you a drawing that I had done before as a sample. You'll notice on this side of it, this is how I started, just with my kind of like general lights and then a darker background. So I just really general, and then I added shading, and you can see where my shadows and this. I have kind of a loose pastel style, but that doesn't mean it's the only style. Other people like to draw very controlled and very carefully. By the way, another thing that might be nice to have, if you have a Q-tip nearby, or a few, you will probably be glad that you have that as well. I wanted to show you a student sample. It's very nice, but you can see how they have a little bit more of a softer style than I do, where for me, you know, when I was trained, you wanted to be able to see your lines and so on. Here's one where it's mostly faded out. Both of them look great. They're just different. Okay, so you can have your own style on this. I just wanted to show you one that, you know, kind of start with the light areas and darker areas, and then you work your way into details. I'm also going to try not to let this video get too long on us. So let's get started. So I've already had you stop the camera a couple of times. So for light areas, I'm just using usually the side of my pastel here. And I'm kind of drawing in the details as I go to kind of get them started. Most of the cup and saucer is pretty light, but it's definitely not as light as the white paper. Is actually pretty shiny white. So I'm starting to kind of infer some shading as I get going with this, but I also want to get a lot of white down there. Also, you can let your paper be part of the gray. Your paper can just show through until the very end and be part of your drawing. That's the whole reason why we use gray paper in the first place. So in the case of my drawing, I wanted to leave in the piece of paper as a light area. You don't have to do this. You can, like you see in the sample, the backgrounds are just gray. I don't know, I felt like doing it this way. So just a gray background's totally fine. Even leaving it gray or adding a few kind of fun lines is also fine. So I decided to try, because I had to do this because I wanted to kind of a white background. So I'm adding areas that are lighter right now. And as I do add some darker areas, just so you know, it's not very hard to get things light in the first place, but it can be kind of hard to lighten up something once you've made it dark. So I'm going to try to keep my lighter areas pretty light. And I'm even pushing hard some areas that I know I want pretty much white at the very end of my drawing. There's some kind of some white area coming through here and through here. Then actually this back side of my cup is not all that white, but it's very light. This is white in here. Once you get ready to start adding some darker areas, you can. So I'm observing where my light areas are and adding these in. Because I have this line on the background, I'm going to clean this up a little by drawing here from another angle. And then I'm going to bring this down. We'll see if I change that or not. Okay, now I'm going to start adding just a little bit of some grays in here. And I can blend them in as I go. softer grays. This, I might get even darker than that here and there. So this whole area, there's a lot of gray, kind of a lighter gray here because the lighting, in my case, is kind of on the back side. And then I have a gray here. So I'm just playing with the drawing. I'm slowly adding in lights and darks. Some areas are a lot darker and so on, and I'm slowly letting it get darker. This is, my shadow is very specific, and then there's a secondary shadow that under here that kind of fades out, as we talked about the two types of shadows. So, you know, I have more than one light source. I have a strong light source coming from this direction, and then I have a very specific one coming slightly more from this direction. Okay, I'm going to get a little bit darker in some places, and we'll see how, start developing some really specific things. I have under here, darker, under here, very specific, and it kind of changes. I have a little shadow here, and then this is darker, and I can blend that if I want. I have under here dark. So I'm looking for lights, I'm looking for darks. At the very end of the drawing, I can take my white and go ahead and find some very specific places to add some highlights. So I'm not too worried about all my highlights. I have some little details here. My cup and saucer have what's called filigree, or a little kind of cut into design. You'll start inferring that at this point. So I'm adding some lights and darks. Remember, I have another shadow here. I'm going to go back to this one and make sure I've included that, this whole area. Remember, when it doesn't get direct light, it's called being in the shade. So the cup itself is putting this area in the shade. And the whole back side of the cup is also in the shade. However, other parts are definitely lit. Okay, I'm going to shake off some of my dust and keep going. So I'm just looking, I'm looking for my lights and my darks. I'm playing around with the drawing. I'm going to start being really brave right now and finding some really dark areas. This isn't my black, it's just the gray. And so I'm giving you, this is the general idea. You can draw along with the video, but each drawing is going to be a little different. So what I'm going to do pretty soon is I'm going to stop the video. I'll finish my drawing. You know, I don't know if it's going to be 100% amazing. Let's see how I do, and I'll tag this on a second. So right now I'm kind of working my way into some darks right now, and working my way through. And making it slowly more detailed at the same time. Whether or not you actually do blend it, or you want to let your lines show a little bit, that's up to you. But the reason we're using charcoal is just because it's a really great experience in actually like a line right here. In kind of expressive shading. It's fun to work with. I wanted you guys to kind of experience it, so it's a nice excuse to have it while we're working. So this goes here. Anyway, I can just keep going back and forth, making it more perfect as much as I can, and putting in the really dark shadow I have underneath, and slowly working back and forth. So I'm gonna, because these videos, the longer they get, the more problems I have with them. I think I'll stop here. You can see how I'm slowly getting darker, but I can go and it does have a second shadow here that's a fuzzy shadow. I want that a little darker. I'm going to just go back and forth, and keep working on it. So Again, this is my style. This is another style. It's perfectly fine. It looks great. Just depends on how you feel like. Lots of smudging here. A little more careful touch. And a little bit looser because that's me. Well, I'm going to stop this video and so I can add a little bit on when the drawing's done. Hey everybody, so I'm almost done. I did the shading and I went through back and forth, and the shading is looking pretty round right now. And the reason why it's looking like it's whether or not it's perfect, why it's looking pretty three-dimensional is because I'm looking at what I'm drawing. This cup and saucer is lit up from the back side. It has a, you know, it's blocking the light off here, so this is an area of shade. This is a shadow here, shades on the object. Anyway, this is pretty much what it looks like. And because I'm really observing and drawing what I see, even though I want to make this white here, that's not the lighting situation. So it's almost done. I just wanted to do one thing because it's so fuzzy up here on the top. And I thought I'd take my light gray color and add some gray up here, and it gives me a chance to kind of clean this up across the top. So, you know, you're working with the pastel. Sometimes some of the last steps are you get to kind of go back in and maybe change some things with your background if you need to correct something. So that's I wanted you to see me do that. And then I could also, like I'd been doing with the white, if I wanted it lighter, you know, I could go in at this point and lighten the background up if I wanted. So anyway, you know, yours might have a whole different style to it. I just wanted you to really try and do a drawing where you looked, you draw what you see, had some fun blending it around, go heavier with the white, a little lighter with the other pastels, finished off with some highlights. My cup has these what's called filigree, so some of my highlights are because of those. I found a lot of reflected light down here too. So look around, see what you can find, have fun with this. What I would rather see is a messy drawing that kind of works and kind of doesn't. I'd much rather see that than a drawing that's like you tried, you know what I mean, where you're really holding back. So go for it. It's an exercise, you know, as much, and just have some fun with this. We're going to do another one on Monday, so this is kind of a prelim for the next one. Thanks a lot. I hope you enjoyed today's drawing. Just take a photo and submit it. Maybe don't write the time on it. Thanks, you guys.